in the role. So today, Gold, who is not here, was going to be interviewed for a procurement manager role. Sam, you are looking for a purchasing agent position. And Angela, you are looking at a contract and procurement specialist role. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll start with Sam then. So Sam, can you provide an overview of your experience in procurement, especially highlighting your roles and responsibilities as a purchasing agent in both public and or private sector organizations?
Thank you. My name is Samuel. I actually started career as in supply chain as a warehousing and distribution officer. And basically, because I was responsible for the warehousing and distribution of HIV commodities. Basically, we just receive commodities, but because I was in charge of the warehouse, I was now responsible for opportunity infection drugs, which were purchased in country. They were so because for the infection as a pharmacist, I was 3 lines.
Okay, it's breaking up on my end. Can you hear him loud, clearly?
No, it's breaking up as well on my end.
Okay.
Can you hear now?
We can hear you. You give it another try.
But it's breaking.
Breaking.
We're coming in and out, yes. But start again.
Okay. So I was saying that I started my career shortly after graduation as a warehousing and distribution officer. That's my supply chain career. But because the products I was warehousing and distributing antiretroviral drugs, which were imported, and I was now responsible for ensuring the opportunistic infection, the OI drugs, were procured locally because the OI drugs were meant to be procured locally. So I was responsible for were procured and distribute alongside with the ART. So that's for the OI. Then after that, I work in a project, is a global fund around HIV that was integrated with reproductive health. So at that program, I was actually the supply chain procurement and supply chain. For that, because of the huge nature of the commodity that was to procure, and the responsible organization, Crown Agent, felt I was not having enough experience. They had to send me on their office for training where my diploma. Is this still not clear?
Going
Yes,
in and out.
It's going in and out. Let's try something. Now that you already said as a panelist, log out, log off, and log back in. We'll see if it fixes the issue.
Did you get that?
Yes.
They've set as a panelist, so log out and try and log back in again as a panelist this time around. Maybe it should set the resolve the issue.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we'll jump to Ashutosh, and we'll come back to you. So Bayo, do you want to ask the first question for Angela?
Angela. All right. So Angela, good morning to you. The question basically follows the first question for Sam. Can you walk us through your experience as a contracts and procurement specialist, highlighting your responsibilities and achievements in managing contracts and procurement processes.
Okay, good afternoon again, Bayo and Gutierrez. Thank you for having me today. Okay, I'll start with first off highlighting my roles and responsibilities as a contractor and procurement specialist. My roles and responsibility involved the end-to-end process of contracting and procurement. And what that entails is it entails identifying needs and then up to the stage of executing the contract. And this involves inviting bidders for bid, evaluating bidders, negotiating, ensuring that cost is achieved when needed, and then basically sending out bids for invitation to tenderers to bid, and working in collaboration with all the relevant stakeholders in ensuring that the company's goal is achieved.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was interesting right there. So you basically just told us about your experience in contracts and procurement. Gutierrez, you want me to give feedback or just let's move on?
Yeah, let's give feedback right after. That way it's fresh and
Expression. All right. That was two things I liked. It was short, it was concise, but I missed your star example. So when you were talking, I was waiting to hear an experience. Because the question says, can you walk us through your experience as a contract and procurement specialist, highlighting responsibilities and achievements in managing contracts? So let's put it this way. When the question went, even though I was listening to you, I was waiting for something. I was waiting to hear an example of where, if you listen to Sam, he when he spoke, he gave a brief overview and honed in on a specific example. So, sorry, I was, even though I was looking at something, I was waiting in my head to hear the example. It never did. Then you stopped, and I'm like, oh, did you get that? I was, so my head was waiting to listen to what you are going to say, and then you stopped, and I'm like, oh, she's finished. Oh, okay. So that was. So again, everything was well said. But because I was expecting something as an interviewer, you never got to my answer. So everything else that you said, I did. Did you get what I just said? Exactly.
Can I ask a question? Even though the thing took me back to participant again.
Sam, before you ask your question, you are still joining as an attendee.
I didn't see the link. I didn't see the link.
so I sent you the panelist invitation. So you need to accept that.
Accept that one. That's what I was going to tell you.
You
might need to.
I didn't see it. Huh?
Okay, I can send it again. Promote to
Right.
panelist. Yeah, you should see it.
Okay, so I said join as panelists.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Ashutosh, you have your hands up.
Oh, sorry, it was by mistake.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish with the feedback to Angela, and then we'll come back to your question, Sam, if you don't mind.
I didn't get that. Okay,
So let's finish with the feedback to Angela's question, and we'll come back to you. Okay, so thank you, Bayo. I will follow your vein. So the first thing I will say, when you are asked a question for an interview, ask yourself which part of the job ad are they targeting? because they are looking at, are you matching our requirement? You said it in your resume, but now they want to validate what you said. So in the job ad, they probably ask for 15 years experience. They probably ask for experience. So I'll start over for Angela. So when an interviewer asks you a question, they probably want to validate an area, the job ad. And for the question that was asked to both of you, they want to know, do you check the cases of 15 years experience in supply chain with experience in oil and gas, pharmaceutical industry, and retail? Ability to work to lead teams. So when you give your star answer, try to respond to those areas in the job ad. For example, I'll have expect Angela to say, I have worked in a contract administrator role in the oil and gas industry for 3 years, where I was responsible of managing clients in the pharmaceutical and maybe retail industry, and my portfolio value was over $5 million. Or the contract was executed with renewal after the end of the first year. So the situation, we know it was handling that portfolio. The task was managing the contract specifically. The action was follow up with the vendors, setting up meetings, negotiating clauses, preparing the negotiations, and the outcome of your volume and the renewal of the contract. So the only way they're going to get renewed is because they have met the expectation. So which means you have done your part. You can even go further. Following year, instead of having an increase in the rate, we have like a same rate, which is a cost avoidance, see a profit for the organization. So to sum up, then what is my star format? And the only way you can like think on the fly is if you have wrote down your value proposition, have repeated over and over, and it's part of your brain now. That's my only feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll come back to Sam. I'm pretty sure you're gonna ace this out.
So sorry, I wanted to ask question before I continue. So my question I wanted to ask was based on what Angela, the feedback given to Angela. So because for me, what normally I do and I wanted to do now is to talk about the different projects, the different scenario, the different positions that I've been able to go through or through my work. So more like picking the work, the different job responsibilities. Is it okay like that, or I should just pick one like Angela just did now? So if they ask something on like that's a question she was asked now. If I was asked, can I just pick one job role that related to that? So for example, my work with shared health, I can pick up how I was responsible or in charge of the engaging with vendors, sending out of quotation, posting out of RFQ, and receiving the quotes, doing analysis, then now awarding the contract, writing report, or should I just, so that's just what I want.
Yeah, so what we will do, and before I give the floor to China contribute, I will ask again the question, and keep in mind your answer should be within 3 minutes. So if you feel like you can wrap everything up for one role in 3 minutes and still meet the star format, excellent. If you can wrap up like 3 positions in 3 minutes and still meet the star format, beautiful. So there's no right or wrong answer. Okay, so I'll ask the question again. We'll go over it. And then before we give our feedback to your answer, we'll let Sheena jump in. So the question was for the purchasing agent role. Can you provide an overview of your experience in procurement, specifically highlighting your roles and responsibilities as a purchasing agent and in public or private sector?
Okay, so I think I started with a private setting as a procurement consultant, procurement specialist consultant, where I was responsible for procuring equipment, medical equipment, and reagents. And because the organization does not have a procurement unit. So within that period, I was able to set up a procurement unit for the organization, and also try to localize the inventory system, because the procurement was to be distributed across different zones. So I was able to do the first and the second procurement for the organization. Then for MG, I actually worked as a supply chain specialist. Also, because this time around, it was I was responsible for ensuring that commodities are procured, warehoused, and distributed to different regions for which the survey was taking place. And also, I was using the utilization data and to ensure that first, the right commodities, the right quantities is procured, and also to ensure that there was no stock up within that period. Basically, what I used was the just-in-time inventory practice was what I used within that period, and it was successful because throughout the period of the survey there was no stock out. And finally, for Malaria Consortium, I worked as a supply chain project manager for malaria commodity, where basically I was tasked with ensuring cost effectiveness was carried out, and sustainability. So for this program, at the end of the program, the government I was able to government buy into this project. The government provided counterpart funding, and we were able to, by the time the project ended after 3 years, we were able to start up another 1 year no cost extension because of government counterpart funding. And yeah, then before I came into Winnipeg, and okay, so yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Bayo, do you want to go first?
Let's hear China first.
Good.
Let's hear China first.
Okay. Thank you, Bayo. It's a question, but
yeah, go ahead. I know. I guessed as much, but I wanted to hear that first.
Okay.
I see Sam is sweating, so that I don't add to sweat.
Okay. I know we are meant to use STAR to respond to situational questions.
Right.
And when you were giving Angela feedback, you said that you didn't hear examples. She used the STAR, which I agree. So, in response to her interview, will she need to respond with a STAR again if the interviewer picks a question from her response? For example, what's your name? My name is China. Why is your name China? Does she need to respond with a STAR again?
That's a direct question.
A direct. I just use it as an example. What
I know.
Yeah.
So let's. If you notice, when Gautier was answering Angela, Gautier said that he would have expected Angela to talk, and Gautier responded using the STAR format. He told her, that you would have expected her to talk about this, that she worked in procurement, and in that page, she raised this, she did this, and based on that, she was able to do this, and because of that, this was the result. So the star format is not a 1, 2, 3, 4 step. That's okay. Yeah, step 1, step 2. So if somebody asks you a direct question, answer directly. If someone tells you, tell me of a time, give me an example. So somebody says your resume says, let me look at Sam's resume. I have Sam's resume here. I'm going to use it as an example. Sam, I'm still going to come back to you. So I'm looking at Sam's resume. So Sam's resume says that, so Sam, it says here, don't answer the question. I just want you to explain to China. So it says here, Sam, that you develop RFIs and RFPs and RFQs, and you ensure the services were contracted proactively. Please, can you tell me of the process of how an RFQ is deployed? China, did you understand that?
Yes, I do.
So when you're answering that question, how are you going to answer it?
I'm going to use a STAR method to respond.
Now listen to this. If I now ask you, what is an RFQ?
That's a direct question. I will just explain the meaning of it.
Exactly. When I say what's an RFQ, that is not a question to use a star. That is exactly. That's just what I wanted to get at. So you understand. So again, if you notice, Gautier said something. When you are asked a question, before you go ahead and answer, you need to process and think, what are they asking for? What do they want to hear? Based on my resume, and based on that, I'm going to go to Sam. Sam, your intro was very good. It was interesting. You talked on a lot of things, but you missed something that Gautier said at the beginning. Gautier told you that if you could put in all your experience in 3 minutes, you should. And he obviously did not listen because he just went on. Yes.
I was struggling.
So as at the time you were struggling, you should have stopped. Did you get that? So sometimes we wait for you to see just when you'll be tired, and that's what happened. The interviewers know when you should have stopped. The interviewer knows when you should have. Sometimes you would have answered the question, but if you don't know when to stop, you're just going to keep on going until finally even the interviewer is like, oh, when you are finished, let us know. So you have to watch yourself in that part. Now, the only thing I will say to help you there is that, and Abiodun taught us this, when you look at your resume and you look at the job that you're applying for, if you have more experience, or let's say you worked in 3 different fields, right? Just pick the field most relevant to the role that you apply. So let's say, so you've worked in oil and gas, you've worked in pharmaceutical, you've worked in, if the company you're applying for now is a pharmaceutical company, keep your example strictly pharmaceutical. Except they ask you a question that will take you outside of pharmaceutical. But even when you do that, and then you say, okay, this example, I'm going to go out to this other industry. And then you will talk about the example, and then you will now relate it to what can happen in pharmaceuticals. Do you get?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how you manage it. But you did well. The intro was good, but just that you need to watch so that you don't overspeak, and make sure that your examples are relevant to the industry that you are interviewing for. You don't start talking about oil and gas in the pharmaceutical industry unless you can tie it back. All right, let me stop. Gautier, see you. Mr. Abiodun, welcome.
Okay. Yeah, welcome, Abby. So you hit the nail on the head, Bayo. Just before I give one other comment, I wanted to ask Sam a follow-up question. So you mentioned that you were using the just-in-time inventory methodology during the COVID time. Now, my question is, we know COVID was especially, famous for supply chain disruption. So what time of the COVID between 2019 and 2022, did you make the assessment and find out that you had no stock out while using the just-in-time?
Okay, so maybe it was not clear. I didn't say during COVID. I said during a survey. We had a survey, IBBSS survey, the IBBSS survey. So the survey was conducted for the period of 8 months in Nigeria. So what happened was that the survey will happen in a particular region for 1 month. They moved to another region. So
okay.
Yes.
Now, what was your employment period for that role that you had? I can go back to your resume, but I want to hear it from you.
So
that procurement
it was
purchasing
a year. It was a year and a year plus. Yes.
But from which year to which year?
2018 August to 2019 May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. The only reason that I bring that up, there needs to be a logic in your response. So China, just before you go ahead, one thing that could help you and anybody going through an interview to ensure they have the right amount of time when they're speaking, your interview needs to be a dialogue back and forth. We need to be able to ask some question, some clarification, and it keep like the interview, like enjoyable and even easy for anybody, right? So if you feel like you're going beyond 2, 3, 4 minutes, and also look at the face of your interviewer. You can see when they start to feel, okay, he's dragging things out. Oh, I'm going too far. Then know where to stop. And just say, if there's any clarification, I'm available to provide them. That's it. Okay, China, you go for it.
Okay, thank you. This is in relation to my previous question, because now you just asked a question out of a response from Sam. So Bayo, is it supposed to be a response using a star, or that was a direct question? I got a bit confused in that part.
That was a direct question.
Like I said, you asked Sam a question in response of an answer he gave when you asked him the first question based on the RFQ. So that was the question I was asking previously. So Bayo, please, I'd like to know, is that supposed to be responded using a star, or is it a direct question? I kind of mixed it up.
So, Bayo,
no, go to answer.
I'll let you go for it. So I'm just going to repeat again the question that I asked.
Yes,
Sam.
exactly.
I asked Sam, when did you notice your non-stock count? Which time? It's pretty specific. I wanted like just a time frame. So for me, it's like a straight question. The reason why I wanted to know is to link it up with our supply chain.
No, sorry to cut you guys. Not that one, the first one, because that's you asked him that question in response to the RFQ. So the RFQ, I think you asked them something like, how was the RFQ used in achieving just in time?
No, it was supply disruption.
It was about supply disruption. At what period the supply disruption? Yes. How did that link to COVID, or how did they know that? Yes. So for that question, it was an open question, so he could have used this because now he wanted clarification. But again, understand, it was not the goal of the question was not about This particular, I'm trying to now go to you asked the question, right? Well, sorry.
Yeah, no. Sheena, it's you can feel what is the purpose of the question. And
yes,
before I even ask the
that's what was great.
question,
It was the purpose of the question I was going to think about. Yes, go on. Sorry,
and I said, Sam, just a follow-up question. Usually the follow-up question will not go as deep as the initial question. It's for clarification purpose. It's to make sure that I have understood him well, or to make sure that he doesn't just copy and paste and there's no link between them. So, and the more you do it, the more you will kind of like understand what are they looking for. That's the main thing that you need to keep in your brain when they ask you a question. And maybe let's get going with the
let's keep
interview.
going, yeah.
And you're probably going to have more examples, and we can just like 15 minutes before the end of this call, we can cycle back again. So when is the most appropriate time to use the star format versus a straight response? How does it sound, Trina?
Perfect. I'm grateful. Thank you.
You are welcome. So, Bayo, I will let you go with the next question, and maybe we can ask the first question that we were supposed to ask. I'll go to Angela.
Okay.
Angela, can you please tell us about yourself?
Okay. So my name is Angela Okoyomo. I'm a senior contracts and procurement specialist. I have experience in, I have a master's degree in supply chain management, specializing in contract, procurement and sourcing. I also have MSIPs, and I have experiences in contracting and procurement. I've worked with oil and gas industries in Nigeria, worked with Total for a period of about 9 years, close to 10 years. I worked as a contract and procurement specialist, and my daily activities involved sending out RFQ, initiating contract, executing contract, drafting contract, evaluating bidders and suppliers, and raising purchase orders, sending out RFQs. And then after that, I moved on to Nekonde as also a senior contracts and procurement specialist, where I also worked in the capacity of a contracting specialist, like I mentioned before. And my responsibilities and activities included drafting contract, executing contract, evaluating suppliers and bidders. My experiences and my educational qualification has really, I've acquired a lot of knowledge based on my educational qualification and my work experiences, which I've leveraged on, and I've used it to, to the benefits of the companies that I've worked for in terms of negotiating cost savings, cost avoidance, and then vendors and suppliers evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. That was a very good introduction. You mentioned your current qualification. You mentioned your experience, your training certifications, and you expanded on some of the roles that you have. completed. So which were all expected. Now there's maybe two things that you can add. I didn't hear the number of years of experience. 5, 10. That is usually on the top of the job ad. You want to know how experienced you are. So that's the first thing.
I think I did. I did
Okay.
mention I have over 10 years experience in that.
Okay, sounds good. My bad. Then I probably
And
missed
funny
it.
enough, I missed it too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I actually did.
I'm surprised. That's why.
Oh, yeah, okay,
You know, it was when I was looking at Sam that he was nodding his head that I said, "Oh," but I missed it. I totally missed it. And I was looking at your resume while you were talking. So I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting."
maybe the reason why I missed is because I was expecting that in her first sentence. So she said she's an experience, but I was looking at like a 10 years experience. That's like the first like hit I was looking for. But I'm sorry again, I missed that in the following stages. Now the two things that you could add when you go for it is, who are you? You tell me what your resume is. Okay, and I have your resume. As a person, do you fit our culture? Like the culture part of the company, I didn't see it. Like I value honesty, teamwork, integrity. I've been part of a GNI committee. GNI is a huge thing these days in Canada. So like I come from a background where I work with Filipino. We have like 20 different ethnies. So I was able to work collaboratively, and you know those details about yourself. Maybe you are a mom of three boys, NJ, Nathan, Gabriel, and Mikael. Why is it important? It's because you might create a connection, because I would probably ask, what is the name of your boys? How old are they? What it does, it relieves you from the pressure. You feel like more like it's like a dialogue that is starting right there. Maybe you like skating, or you like basketball. Oh yeah, really? No, I really love Toronto Raptors, and they play very well. So that's, you bring that yourself in the interview. So if you bring that, and you also bring a bit of a volunteer, 1 or 2 words, which means you will need to be very concise on your introduction. Remember, they have your resume. All they want is to highlight like those board area in the job ad. That is what they want to check off when you introduce yourself. You might go for like 1 minute and 30 seconds or 2 minutes. That's it. Now your true self, your kids, your hobbies, your volunteer, the next 60 seconds, fill it in, put it in. And then they're going to ask you questions. That's how you build rapport, and use that rapport to make your interview enjoyable and, not stressful and happy. So that's my only feedback. So you go for it, Bayo.
All right. Thank you. And I like your intro. It went well. You spoke to your experience. You spoke to the knowledge that you have. But I would like to just add 1 or 2 things. And the same thing, this goes to Sam. Please be careful of using abbreviations. You said something, Sam said something about Angela, your hand is raised.
Yes, I'll wait for you to finish.
Okay. Be careful of using abbreviations. You used an abbreviation about one certification you had.
MC, yeah. I heard that, so I
even you, Sam, you used the same thing when you talked of the survey that was done. The survey that was done. Yeah. So if you're using an abbreviation, don't assume that everybody knows what the abbreviation means. And sometimes you don't want to throw off the interviewer to be thinking, what does that mean? Is that related to us? So if you're going to use an abbreviation, just tell us what it means in full. If you don't remember it, say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't remember what it is right now. It's not good, but if you're going to use abbreviation, try and tell us in full what abbreviation means. One other thing that you could have added, Angela, to your your introduction is your resume says that you negotiated commercial contracts of materials and accomplished a cost savings of 40%, which translated to $2 million. It's written right here on your resume. That's an achievement. That should be something that you have done. And you should find a way to work it into your intro. Oh, that in one of my former organizations, I was able to, while working as a procurement specialist, ensure that we got a cost savings of about 40%, which equivalent to $2 million. Figures catch people's attention, because they might, of course, again, it might open you up to further questions later on. But what it means is that you have shown that you bring value. Do you understand? You can show that I've delivered value somewhere. I can deliver the same value here if I have the right kind of attitude. And so that was key. It was something that I was looking at your resume to see whether you would say something about it, or that just tie in one or two metrics into your introduction if you can. The final thing is what Gautier said. Play around with as you are introducing yourself, the core values of organization, and how you can show that. Because again, every interview in North America, I know you might have had this thing before, and Abeno has talked on it, what we call cultural fit. Cultural fit. Every organization, apart from your technical expertise, they want to know that you're a cultural fit for the organization. And it's key to be able to say something. Look, I did an interview last month, and when I got on the first call, it was a Zoom call like this, and the guy started telling me about it. I was rambling, and the guy says, "No, that I have your resume. I don't want to hear anything about your resume. I want to know about you." And instantly, I segued, and I started talking about my kids, my sports. I read books. I play lawn tennis and pickleball. And I went into something, I volunteer. I went to something totally different because, it was a game at adaptability. He has told me, I have your resume, I've read it. Is there nothing else in your life apart from your resume? And you must be quick to know if you ever get to that situation, what to switch to. That's why having something about yourself apart from work is also important. For some people, they might ask it, some people they might not. So that's just key to note. All right, let me stop. Angela, you wanted to ask something.
Yes, I was going to ask, because I've heard, like a few people have said an interviewer is not interested in what your interests are, i.e. your favorite football club, your favorite food, and things like that, right? So is it okay to wait for the interviewer to ask you first, or you can just go ahead to start talking about your interests, about things like that? Okay, this is my favorite food, I like to travel, I like to meet people from different cultures and things like that. Because you hear this, and then the next thing you hear this, so it's a bit confusing when you're actually on the spot for a real interview.
Yeah, no, and that's a very legit question in Nigeria. Now, it goes back to how much you give at the first stage. If you just say, I love playing basketball, I'm interested in helping people through volunteer opportunities, and I am a mom with 3 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. 10 seconds, full stop.
Simple. Full stop.
Not annoying. You're opening a window. They take it, perfect. They don't take it, nobody's in now.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's not about telling them how. See, Gautier has said it. Look, you have 3 minutes to talk about yourself, or 2 minutes to talk about yourself. First 30 seconds talk about work, and then finally you go to just 30 seconds of short, sharp, a little bit about yourself. Is a window. If they're interested, they segue there. If not, you know that they don't want it, and it does nothing to use your introduction. It's you, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's go to Mr. Sam. All right, so my question to you, what methods do you use to identify and evaluate potential suppliers stroke vendors for the products and services required by your organization? How do you ensure they meet quality, cost, and delivery requirements? So it's almost two questions in one. You want me to go over it again?
Yes, please.
All right. So what methods do you use to identify and evaluate potential suppliers stroke vendors for the products and services required by organization? Let's stop there. Please go ahead with that. What methods do you use?
Okay, so for the organizations I've worked, depends on the service we're looking out for, because we have database of vendors. So if the services that we want to procure is not available among all the previous vendors that we have, first is I'll go to try to advertise, try to do more like market survey, try to do trend and to look for who are the vendors that have. I can either go to website, go to Google to search. Then I will search for organizations that can offer this, then invite them, or look at this, then invite them. That's how, depending on the services. But if it's already what is easily available, then I can send mail to them, invite them to tell us what they can do to provide these services or procure these equipments that we want to. So I give them the detailed specifications of what we want, how we want it to be delivered, and where we want it to be delivered. Then I hear from them how they will go about their services. So normally that's how we do. I give them the details. This is, we want to get this pack of this. We want it to be delivered this. We want it to be transported in this kind of vehicle, and we want it within this period. How will you go about it? So I hear from the different vendors that that's for products that we know we already have vendors that can do that. But for the ones that we don't have vendors already in our database, normally what we do is I can either do search, we can do search, we can do search we can advertise, then people will, when they now more like show their expression of interest. So we can send in expression of interest. You just tell me that, okay, you can do this, you have this capacity, and they have this. So that's basically how I've done it in the past.
All right, so thank you for that. That was very good. The final part of the question is, and you've touched on it, but give us an example of how you ensure that your vendors, when you are identifying them, that you ensure that they meet the quality, cost, and delivery requirements of whatever it is that you are ordering. How do you ensure that they meet the three parameters for
Okay,
product?
so quality, cost, and
Delivery.
Yeah. So now, depending on also the items, so if, for example, vendor says they can provide these services, so first of all is to, based on the organizational profile that was sent, have they done this in the, can any of the people they've done this in the past send them more like, it's not recommendation, a letter to completion letter. Do they have any completion letter to show where they've done this in the past in any related organization like ours? So if they see that kind of letter or certificate of completion, we can now review and say, okay, this is the service we want to offer, and we've seen that you have done this in organization A, B, C. We want you to provide the same thing for us. But if it is different, then we can still discuss, okay, for this organization, so take for example, you provided for distribution, so for delivery, you distributed mosquito net. mosquito net does not need a thermolabile warehouse. But what I want to distribute is pharmaceutical products, which are thermosensitive. So I want you to tell me how you will be able to ensure that these products are kept or are even transported in a thermosensitive vehicle all the way to where it's going to. Because this is not like mosquito nets that you have done in the past. So these are the things, the terms I'm going to discuss with the different vendors, discuss on the transportation, how it must be warehoused, how it must be transported, the quality, the importance of the quality will be discussed with all the stakeholders, where it will be taken to, how it will be kept, and how it will be distributed, the period it requires. If it requires me to stagger also the distribution, then we can discuss that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That was very well. I think you answered it very well. Gautier, what do you think? Any comments from you?
Yeah, no, I think Sam he masters the subject.
Yeah.
If he put a little bit of structure in his answer, especially the second answer, it was a perfect case for a star format. And that's the only thing that I missed the format. So I'll answer the second part of the question first, and then we'll go back to that one little thing I have as an adjustment for the first question. So you get examples about how you will ensure that the vendor will be compliant to your specifications. You could have said, we were to procure or to source mosquito nets for a value of $1 million. It was critical to get, and the vendor needed to be homologated. So we went through a selection criteria. It has 20 criteria, and one of the criteria was the transportation mode and the compliance with the health and safety. So we went through survey, we went through site visit, and we get to like a PO trial. So, and from there, the vendor was successful. We onboarded him, and he was able to deliver successfully for the next 3 years after he was signed up. So that star format will just like bombard your interviewer. So you have all the details. It's just a matter of like organizing it. And when you do that, it helps to be very concise. Because you answered and you went back again into your answer. But if you go with the star format, everything is in one hit and hell. Now I go back to the first part of the question. You answered all the example that you gave was great. One thing that you can add is the referrals. I might know a vendor in the industry, and I just asked him, who would you recommend me for this particular item that you don't carry? That referral will save you time to go on Google, go and do some, because you use that referral as the first baseline to do further analysis or look for competition. So very well done. I think you'll just hit your next job interview, that question. Yeah, that's all for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with Gautier. You answered with knowledge, which was important, but your knowledge needed structure. And that's what you should work on now. The structure of your answer. Ensure that your answers flow. That's why the star format, like Gautier, that's what the aim of the star format, to help you put your answers in a flow, in a structured mode, you know. But yeah, but very well done. One thing we cannot take away is the fact that you knew your answers, you knew the subject matter. That was clear, and I like that. That was clear to see, but it was just that it would have been nice to have it in a more flowing manner. Well done. Madam Angela, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Gautier, you want to take on Angela's next question?
Yeah, no problem. I'll be glad to. So, Angela, you are applying for a contracts and procurement specialist role. So contracts play a critical role in procurement. So how do you approach contract negotiations and management to minimize the risk and maximize the value for the organization?
Okay, so
I can repeat the
managing
question.
managing contract. Sorry, should I
So I
go
can
on?
repeat the question if you want.
No, you said, how do you approach contract negotiation, right?
Correct. Negotiation, drafting, and management to minimize the
Okay.
risks and maximize the value for the corporation.
Okay, so first off, I'll start with contract negotiation. For me, the approaches that I've applied in the past, in my previous role as a senior contract, as a contract and procurement specialist, I've been able to, use the approach of a win-win situation, because the idea for me is not for the contractor to lose, neither is it for the company to lose. So I have applied that approach in the past, in my previous role, to negotiate, to come to a compromise of a win-win situation for both contracting parties. I'll give an example of, I've executed several contracts. I'll give an example of, I'm going to use an example of during the pandemic, oil price was, dropping drastically. At that point, we were mandated to negotiate contract downwards by 40%. Here was what I did. I invited my contractors for the contract that I was handling. I was able to, schedule them for a meeting. First off, I sent a letter out to my contractors, informing them that we would like to have a meeting with them that involves renegotiation of all the contract commercial values. I was able to send out these letters and invite these contractors for a meeting, and coming to a compromise. I was able to use the win-win situation because at that time it was really difficult to get contractors to, succumb to your part of the bargain. It was a very difficult situation, but with that win-win approach, making the vendor feel, okay, the idea is not to chase you out of the business, because we still want you to be in the business for our sake, as much as we would also want to be in the business if we can come to this compromise. Yes, did this work? Yes, it did work, but we shifted grounds a bit, even though it wasn't the 40% that we agreed on. We finally got to arrived at a compromise, which was 30%, and the vendor was, some of the contractors were willing to renegotiate the contract, which in turn led to savings for the company. I achieved savings in that regard. And then coming to the contract drafting part, for me, the approach I use the approach of, okay, when I'm drafting a contract, there are certain things that I need to put in place. Like, okay, the language that I'm using has to be clear, and the deliverables has to be, well defined. Is this contractor going to understand the terms I'm using in my contract? Yes or no? So I have to make sure those things are put in place, the terms of the contract, the start dates and end date of the contract, like the duration, the payment terms. Is it going to be in split currency? Is it going to be like a 60-40 or 70-30 kind of split? So I use this, these are the terms that I use when I'm drafting my contract, and I ensure my terms are well understood by the party, which is the contractor now. And I also ensure when I'm drafting my contract, I use clauses. The HSC clauses must be in my contract. to mitigate any form of risk. And then I ensure there's also the part that
Angela, are you still here?
We lost you.
Angela?
We lost her.
Oh, we lost her.
She's back.
sorry, I don't know what happened. Okay.
Okay, go on. Now that you're
I
back.
can go on. Okay, so these are I ensure these terms that are key are in my contract when I'm drafting my contract. And then coming to okay, let me give an example of a contract that I drafted for my previous role. I handled a contract for offshore. It was an offshore contract. The contractor was to mobilize his their employees, their staff to go offshore. What I ensured I had in my contract was that I had insurance. There had to be insurance covering the employees on site working to shift the liability to the contractor should any incident occur. So I've done that in the past in my previous role. And then when it comes to managing the contract to minimize risk, yes, HSC clauses are there, and then contracts management, from time to time, I collaborate with my technical partners to ensure that the contractor that's been mobilized to site is actually carrying out the job is being done, the job is being executed. I organize like a bi-weekly or weekly meeting or monthly meeting, service quality meeting to, to actually determine if this vendor, the contractors, if they are meeting up to the task or if they are meeting up their side of the bargain. So these and many more that I do, that I've done in my previous role to ensure that the company liabilities is being moved from the company to the vendor, and then to ensure cost and savings and cost avoidance.
Thank you, Angela. Hey, very well responded. So your question was quite a tricky one because it has 3 layers in 2 different categories. So you had to approach the drafting, the negotiation, and the management on the risk side of the things, but also drafting, negotiation, and management on the value maximization side of things. So, and you did very well. So, and you give a lot of details. Now, just 2 things to keep in mind. Try to keep your answer within 3 minutes to 4 maximum to avoid giving the feeling to the interviewer to want to stop you. Like 2 minutes ago, I wanted to say, okay, we gave like enough content, we understood. It's time to move forward. Now, and for that to happen, that again, you go back to the STAR approach. The one thing that you should never forget about the STAR is your result. That is what covers everything. Like I didn't hear maybe about the contract value, about an issue avoidance because of your contract clause. You mentioned insurance, transferring the risk back to the supplier or to the contractor. But when you give your example, bring a tangible result. It could be regarding the risk that you had the perfect result, like transferring the risk to the contractor was kind of your result. Now, one thing that I miss on the drafting the contract, you need to always involve legal team. It could be from the draft of the contract. They have templates, so organizations always have templates. where the key terms and conditions that protect the company have been vetted by your legal counsel. So never forget to mention that, because that's where the major, like the most of the risk will sit. So having them to vet that is key in your answer. But overall, I was very, very happy with your answer. Just remember to kind of like think of your answer on the star format, straight to the point, take one task, one or two actions, and a result, 100%. So that will keep you concise, hit to the point, and that will give us a chance as interviewer to ask follow-up questions. And you want that to happen. It makes a conversation. That's my 2 cents. But very well done, Angela.
Thank you.
Dayo?
Angela, for me, Gautier was spot on. When you were talking, I had written down here, when you were talking about, for negotiations, you got it spot on, win-win, the ability to discuss with you. But for legal, for the drafting, I was expecting you to talk about the legal implications. And Gautier was right. You need to ensure that no matter what happens, the draft goes through legal. The draft of any contract is approved by legal. Even if you are using a template, and you need to mention that, because you don't want to give anybody the impression that you are going to go ahead and implement a contract that is not approved by legal. You understand? And like the other thing is, like Gautier said, you need to practice more of your star format, so that, because the other thing that star format does, it helps keep you within a time frame. Because you answer the questions properly, but you spend too long. And after you want to the interviewer to be able to use it to answer a follow-up question. Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to go to does anybody have any questions, any comments? Sam, you want to say something?
Yes. So when she was saying this, so my last role was under category management. So for contracting, what again we do is we just have a summary table where we have everything, the total amount, because sometimes the contract document is so huge, it can be 30-something pages. So what we do is just that second page will have the summary of everything, the total amount, the currency, the date we want it to be, the period, the duration, who is responsible, and all those things. Just one page that will summarize everything. The major, all those things. So every other detail will now come for them. So that's just what I wanted to point out, because with that, again, like she was trying to say that she wants she's going to put the terms to be clear enough for the vendors and all. So anybody that knows, okay, they want you to deliver this 1st of March. It's going to be 1st of March till 31st of March. That's the duration of the contract. It's written there. The amount, if it's CAD, if it's USD, it's written there. Who is signing, the responsible person, it's written there, and all those things. Just a summary sheet. That's part of the things we do. Just like
so one of the key things is that your summary sheet ends up, if I get you right, ends up also being like the result of the whole of the activity. So after you have done your contracting and drafting, your summary sheet is
everything.
Yeah, ends up being your result is
because more like a executive summary.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So for her, it would have been a good idea to highlight that okay, at the end of the day, we come up with a summary sheet that lists out all the details of the contract. Yeah, that's a good idea. But then again, it's not every organization that does that, you know. But if you are in that kind of situation, that would have been your take, that In my past organization, we used to run a summary sheet. You know, it's not every organization that does a summary sheet. So yeah, that works. Thank you so much, Sam. So quickly, for you, right, your purchasing agency. Now, in Canada, both public and private sectors have distinct procurement regulations and processes. How do you navigate and ensure compliance with these regulations in your purchasing activities? So, do you understand? Do you know the differences between public procurement and private procurement as it relates to the Canadian environment? And how do you navigate and ensure compliance?
Okay, so with my last role as supply chain analyst, the category, so basically I were mainly involved with public procurement. So, and for public procurement, we have thresholds. So if the money is beyond certain threshold, say for example, $300,000, then we must advertise it in the public procurement space using MEX. So we use MEX to advertise where every other person will see, where the government will also see the items that we're trying to procure. Then, but for private, I know it's almost similar, but for me, the major thing is to look at what are the procurement, what are the terms that is required for each of those procurement, what are the things, the relevant items that will be considered. So, for example, if what is required for public procurement or private procurement, what is required is that if you want to provide service or procure something that will have to do with life with this, you must need to pass through the government. So every government regulations and requirements, we must make sure that those are followed during. So I think that's the major thing for me. So government regulations must be there must be compliance with every government regulations for procurement, anything that we want to do. So we must abide by government compliance, the government requirement of things that we want to do. So that's basically, and the amount also that is involved. We need to ensure that all these things are taken once we're doing, whether it's public, whether it's private, basically. So, but like I said, if it's public, depending on the threshold, the amount that is in, that will also determine the different stages that you need to do, and also the legal, the level of legal involvement that will be required.
All right. Thank you very much, Sam. You have okay, now you have tried to give us the distinction between the public and the private, and you've also told us that you've worked in the public in a public procurement sector. So that's interesting. And the question was about how do you, yeah. All right. So the question was about how do you
No, go ahead.
navigate? Yeah, how do you navigate and ensure compliance? And interestingly, it also falls with what we were talking with Angela a few minutes ago. And yes, you talked about the fact of ensuring legal, but I was expecting more to hear about, you talked about your summary sheets, the last few, I was expecting to hear you focus on that a bit here now. The fact that when you are working in your purchasing, your summary sheet that details and outlines what each vendor should be looking out for, in terms of every so let's put it this way, if you're doing public procurement for, let's see, you say you work in shared health, public procurement in health. What are the regulatory requirements for health supplies? You know, your summary sheet should have ensure that government regulation so is followed. You know, all those kind of things. I expected to hear you talk a lot more, because the key to this question, which is what we always told you, is questions is how do you navigate and ensure compliance? So I wanted to hear a bit more on how you're going to make sure that the vendor follows the compliance that and those compliance are first of all written in the contract. Is that not right, Gautier? Yes, they are first of all written in the contract, and then it's now about monitoring. You know, so that was what I was. But again, you showed that you know what you're talking about, but it's just about putting it in the right context that is important. Gautier, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Bayo. I agree with your comments and feedback. And so you touch upon the legal laws aspect of procurement. So, and there's three areas where you can distinguish public procurement from private. So the legal requirements. So the government is heavily laws oriented. And there's two concepts that you need to highlight in your response: fairness and equity. Any spend of public fund need to meet those two criteria: fairness and equity. What that means, if I'm a private, I can decide to purchase my item from whoever I want. But as a public, I need to advertise it and give a chance to any potential supplier to purchase those. So now, there's the cost management part of the things. So we noticed that the public side is very strict on budget limits, okay, and cost containment. If they say we have a budget of $1 million to purchase some chairs, we'll stick to that unless we have a budget amendment at the federal level, if it's Canada, and they need to vote an extension on the budget. Whereas in the private, it's more flexible, and they look at optimizing profitabilities, values, and revenue. It's less constrained in terms of budget limits. Now, you also have the last aspect is technology adoption. So public sector is very technology adoption driven. It's like SAP and all those big procurement softwares were first of all implemented in those areas. Whereas in a private company, you can go with your Excel, or you can decide to go with SaaS, a little package. As long as you can have your return on investment and some profit, you're good. So there are the three areas. If you break down your comparison in those three areas, you come across more organized. But you have the knowledge. It's just about the structure. Okay. Anybody in the audience who want to? Oh, sorry, we have one question or two questions.
Sorry, for those in the audience, you can go to Q&A and put the chat is. I don't think you can go on chat, but you can go to Q&A and put your questions there. And if you have any questions, or if you want to say something, you can raise up your hand, and then maybe we can, or just put your questions in Q&A, and then we'll take it and answer the questions. So for those who are okay, Chilla, quick one. Hold on a minute. Angela and Sam, you want to take 2 minutes to drink some water, or are you okay to continue?
Yeah, I'm okay. Angela is drinking water in the background.
Angela her video is up, so she's drinking a mug of water.
So don't do that during your actual interview, and you keep your camera on. Okay. And if
Yeah.
you and if you at some points you want to drink some water or have a cup of coffee, it's free. Like, say, okay, excuse me, I just need to grab a glass of water or a cup of coffee. So yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. My camera was actually on, but there's something I'm doing in the background. That's why I turned off my camera.
It's fine.
Don't you worry. I have 3 boys, so I know what it is.
All right, China, you had a question.
Yeah, sorry, not really a question, but kind of an advice. I don't have this Sam and Angela. It's scary. Okay, so what advice do you have for people transitioning? Like, I have experience in banking. I have over 8 years experience in banking and 2 months experience in procurement because I transited to procurement before coming to Canada. So writing my resume is kind of a bit difficult for me because I don't know where to stick to, because I really want to transition to supply chain because my bachelor's is in supply chain. Then I went ahead to University of Winnipeg to do a 1-year program on supply chain. So what advice in terms of interview would you give to those to people transitioning and don't have so much experience in responding to the tactical questions you were asking Sam and Angela?
So what's the name? So we provide
Someone has the
Is
Yes.
Abiodun, okay, he's off now.
Oh good, yeah, I just muted him.
Yeah. All right. So if you've been, are you new on our platform?
Yes.
China. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what we talk on our platform constantly. If you I want you to please spend some time on the platform, attend our regular Saturday, but I'm going to give you a brief. See, in Canada, what is key is your transferable skills. So when you were in banking, what did you do in banking?
Front row teller customer service.
Okay, so you were what? Say that again slowly.
Front teller and customer service.
Okay, so front teller and customer service. So now front teller and customer service. Sorry, just give me a minute. Front teller and customer service. You might think that it has nothing to do with supply chain, right? But again, there's a customer service element of supply chain. As a front teller, you probably you do a lot of interaction, human interaction, right? You probably do a lot of I don't say, yes, you do time management, you do you probably do inventory, as silly as it sounds. You do documentation,
yes.
right? Aha. So in a silly way, you've done a bit of supply chain, but only in a different industry. So what you need to do is to sit down and look at the skills that you have acquired. Again, don't look at the role, look at the activity and say, this activity, what skill does this activity give me? Once you get the skill, then it's without what they call transferable skill. So you can say, okay, I have the skill, I can do inventory, I can do logistics. You know, I can when you are doing paperwork, when you're doing all your filling forms and doing all those things, you are doing some form of inventory. Well, yes, you are detail oriented. You are, so all those are skills that you can transfer. They're skills that we need in supply chain. And so whenever you get a question, even if you are doing a supply chain interview, you say, now I did this role, I use this skill in banking. You explain it in banking, and then you come back and say, now in supply chain, this is the equivalent of that role. Did you get what I just said?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yes, and that's what you do. That's how you show that even though I've not theoretically worked in a supply, an inventory, full inventory role, I've used the skills and I know, and I can show you that this skill in banking equals to this skill in the supply chain function. And that's what they want to hear. Whatever industry you learn what you have learned, it does not matter as long as you can show that I have done it here, and this is what this equates to in this role. And you can use the industry that they are in. You can use and that's how you manage your transferable skills. And then answer the question. Sometimes somebody said to me, when they ask you a question in an industry you don't know, you bring it to the industry you know, explain what it is, and then say, and this, I assume, will relate to this particular in this industry. So you have taken it to where you know, you explained it, showed your knowledge of the process, and then transferred it back to their industry and told them that if I was working in the industry using the same knowledge, this is what I would do. You get that? Gautier,
Yes.
am I way off mark or am I on point?
Oh man, you're on point and you jump on the point and you nailed it down. Yeah, so definitely the first exercise I would say, China, sit down and do a table. Left side, banking, customer service, and tailor skills. Right side, supply chain skills. But now, supply chain, be very specific. Procurement skills. And then from there you go. And Abedon is listening, so he can send you the Calendly link, and you can book like 15 minutes to go over the details of your transition plan with him. That way we don't steal the valuable time we have booked for Sam and Angela today. Cool. Okay, so we move to I believe Sam for the next question. Bayo?
Yes. Okay. Sam. Let's so this is Angie's question. Give me 1 minute, please, Sam. All right, so Sam, can you describe a challenging negotiation you've conducted with a supplier or vendor to achieve the best terms and pricing for your organization? How did you approach the negotiation and what was the outcome? Did you get that, or should I take it again?
Okay, take it again, please.
All right. Can you describe a challenging negotiation you've conducted with a supplier stroke vendor to achieve the best terms and pricing for your organization? I want you to tell us what approach you took to the negotiation and what was the outcome.
Okay, so I think I will use two scenarios that happened in Winnipeg here. So I started in the food and linen department of the supply chain, where I was in charge of working with vendors, food vendors. So I remember and also later moved to lab. So for lab, I was in charge of service renewal and also for procurement. So for contract, service level, and service renewal. So there was this contract that the term was for 5 years. After 2 years, the vendor came up and said it's no longer the price that was negotiated before is no longer going to happen because of the effect in dollar, the market, and whatever. So ideally, in the what was written in the contract was 5%, maximum of 5% increase. But the vendor came up with 25% increase. And first is that the zonal lab person, the boss, was not even going to look at it. So I tried to discuss using the win-win situation. So I called the vendor. I said, "Come, look at this. First is that you've signed a 5 years contract. We're just in second year. Now you want to move it over to change to 25%. How do you want me to approach this?" So discussing with the vendor, trying to look at this, okay, Eventually, he said, okay, they will step it down to 20%. I still told him it was too far from the 5% that was agreed. So, but eventually, with lots of ups and downs, trying to, okay, we'll do this, eventually he accepted, and it came up to 7.5%. And I took it to my boss, tried to explain, and with all the condition that, okay, with this 7.5%, he has agreed that he's not going to change for that's the third and fourth year. So he's going to give us 2 years at 7.5% increase. And it was approved. So that negotiation between myself and the focal point for the vendor, trying to look at the win-win situation. Look, you've already signed this with the organization, and there are tendency that you will get more other contracts and other things. You've been working, and at the end of the day, I was able to convince the vendor, try to look at, okay, there are other things that they could work around it, and they will also be able to deliver. And that's how I was able to do that. But that's for the service agreement. But for food, I had this challenging moment with one of the big names, Cisco's of these big names of vendor, food vendor. So
Sam, can we just maybe focus on the service agreement? I have like 2 follow-up questions.
okay,
I
so
hope you also.
I think that's all like for service agreement.
Yeah, so that would keep you under like the 5-minute time frame, and we can just elaborate. So that's a very good example with some results. Now, I want to kind of dive into the actions that you took. What what um what did you bring on the table convince that supplier to drop his request by over 70% first? Second question, or maybe the first one, what was the justification behind the price increase in the first place? And the third one, who had the bargaining power? Like, who was your counterpart, the authorized signature person? And yeah, so those are the 3 questions. So was it the authorized negotiator? Second one, why did they in the first place increase the price? And what did you bring on the table to make them adjust their position?
Okay, so for the first part, well, I would say using personal skills and relationship the vendor, I was able to, okay, try to give the vendors the different scenarios, what they tend to benefit, what eventually they will lose by losing this contract. So more like win-win. These are the things you've been doing this. I mean, they've been doing the same service agreement for the past 7 years, even though it's for that plus newer equipment that was procured. So now again, they are saying that this equipment, some of the reagent that is used is no longer available, that they need to go to the US to procure this. So that's the reason for increasing the reason for the increase in the service that they wanted to bring up. So, but I told him, I said, look, this is not like an emergency thing. You're a big company, you can go ahead and sort for this thing, bring it in large quantity. And remember, you are bringing it in for government. It's not a private firm you are bringing it in for. So it's going to more like give your organization upper hand and look, you are bringing this in for the government of Manitoba. So that alone is a big win for your organization, that people will know that you are dealing with government. You're dealing with big institutions like Manitoba government. So when they look at this, they eventually found out, okay, then for the person I was negotiating with, he was second in command, was not the director. However, they were doing more like back and forth. He said, okay, I'll get back to you. We'll discuss with the overall boss. Then he will get back to me. Then, because I told him, I don't know how to go and meet my boss with
Okay.
25% increase, which was higher than what was signed.
Yeah, sounds good. Bayo, do you have any feedback?
You asked the questions I wanted to ask, but just to say, for anybody when you're interviewing, be careful of your examples, because your examples, your examples can trigger a follow-up question that, if you are not prepared, can lead you down a rabbit hole. And I will share a practical example. I remember the job I'm currently doing now. The day I did the interview, I was interviewing for another role, and then I spoke on something that was productivity improvement based. And immediately I gave the example. I looked, it was on camera like this, and I looked at the interviewer and I saw his eyes light up. When you see the guy, I just went, oh wow. As in, now I said that thing and I didn't remember the follow-up. I couldn't explain the details of what I just said. But immediately I saw his eyes light up, I was like, oh no, I've put myself in trouble. And of course, instantly he went down that, said, oh, I talked about this thing. And then he started, later I found out that was the job he used to do. So he was happy to hear me talk about it. And he just said, oh, and I had to tell him, I've forgotten, I don't know. I now have to be trying to push him back to, don't, let's go there. So please be careful. You might lead yourself down a hole that you don't know who you're talking to, and you might end up having to dig yourself out of a hole that was not necessary. So the example was good, but just that it could lead you, like Gutier, he stopped you and said, I have questions, because those questions were the same questions I had, so.
Yeah, and true and solid, it could be an opportunity for you to shine.
Yes.
So, so some of the answers I was looking at was, we did some spend analysis on contract with that vendor for the past 7 years. We have done some vendor management analysis, and we have used those data to negotiate. But also, that is a critical vendor. This is a sole source vendor because of the expertise and what they're providing. If that's the case, you might be waiting to hit those 25% up, because without that, you're going out of the business. So those are the details that you need to bring forward. And any high in percentages will usually raise questions and follow up. So it needs to be reasonable. And I was going to ask, how long did the negotiation take for you to move from 25% to 7%, right? Is it, when you mentioned it was because of a particular product that they couldn't source elsewhere from the US, what is the percentage of that item in the overall services? If it's worth 5%, why on earth even the price double of those 5% will translate into a 25% increase in your rate? You know what I mean? Those details should, okay, I understand what I'm talking about, and this is solid ground on the hype that I mentioned. So just before we wrap up, with 3 minutes before 12, one key thing, someone to give example, don't give the name of the company. No, you mentioned 3 times going of Manitoba. No, one of my previous employer, full stop. It's like sharing, you might have mentioned maybe a specific item with name. That might be a proprietary, a property for that organization. By just saying that, you're breaching the contract and you can be sued for that. So be very careful. Don't mention your previous company name. If the product, if it's specific to the industry or the company, just say a product, a full stop. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. So I know you might be eager to share, but yeah, be careful with disclosing the name of the product or the company that you are referring to. Okay, some closing remark. I'll first let Angela go, then Sam will go, and Bio. And if I don't want to jump in, that way we can be respectful of the time of everybody on this wonderful Saturday.
Okay, please, can I ask for Bayo to go first, please? I'll go after Bayo.
Okay, so Sam, you go first,
Sam,
and
you
then
go.
Bayo.
Sam, okay.
Okay, so for me, I want to sincerely thank Gote, Bayo, and our boss building for giving me this, since this opportunity for me is really, really a great opportunity, something I've been looking for, and at least you saw how I was tensed when I started sweating, and now something. Thanks to Bayo that saw me sweating, and I also take cooling now. So thank you for the opportunity. But just one question before I leave. You know, they didn't give me the time to ask me I didn't have the opportunity to tell us about it. So my question now is, so you said when they said tell us about yourself, they already have their resume. There's no need to repeat what's on the resume. You said what I have here, you said you should just tell them about the value you're coming to add to the organization. Tell them things like about integrity, about collaboration, the culture fit, how you've worked with, like in my last organization, I worked with Filipinos, Indians, and Lebanese and Africans. So I can bring about that, tell them about the volunteer opportunities, and that I'm a father of two, and if there's any achievement, but all these things should be done in 2 to 3 minutes. Is that what you said that I should say when they say tell us about yourself?
Okay, I'll correct one or two things. What you just said is worth 30 to 45 seconds. That's part of the value, 1 minute maximum. The value, your hobby, your family, maximum 30 to 60 seconds. Now the other 2 minutes, you see in the job ad, they have title or board paragraphs. We say we want pilot experience, SCMP, GMP. You need to have experience in oil and gas. You need to have experience in leading contracts, drafting bids. So just those bold lines in the job ad, you bring them into a paragraph, and then you close with that through yourself. So if I just need to give it a shot here on the fly. My name is Guti Jekambwende. I am a 15 years experience in supply chain management. I've worked in logistic procurement, distribution, product management, and category management. I have worked on contract drafting, process improvement, and what. So yeah, so at that, I've worked in oil and gas, retail industry. I've experienced also working in public entities. I have an ACMP, I have a PMP, and I have a Green Belt in Six Sigma. I am someone who is very people-driven. I'm part of the D&I committee in the current company. I volunteer in my free time. I like to support other people. Technology is my hobby, so I'm very easy to go with new technology. I'm a dad of 3 boys, Nathan, Michael, and Gabriel, and I'm looking forward to this interview and to respond to any of your questions. So I just made it up. So your true part is maximum 30 seconds to 60 seconds. What they know, but they want you to kind of like confirm in 1 to 2 minutes should be like just like highlight the expectation that they have. Does it make sense?
Very, very. Thank you.
No problem. Angela, you go. Bayo and Mr. Abiodun to close things off if you are able to talk.
Okay. Yes, I can talk now. Okay, so thanks to everyone that participated. Thank you so much, Abiodun. Thank you, Bayo. Thank you, Lucia. I really do appreciate this opportunity. It has helped me to now know areas where I need improvement, especially with the STAR method of answering questions. I think I need to go back to work on that because I mentioned to Abiodun, I get scheduled for interviews, but I don't get the offer. So I spoke to Abiodun and I really needed to know what the problem is, what I was doing wrong. So this interview has helped me to, to now know areas where I need improvement, what I need to do better for subsequent interviews. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the questions that were asked and the responses, the questions from the audience also. I would want this sort of thing to continue. Should always do this from time to time because it helps, So I'll be looking forward to the next time everyone will come on board for this sort of gathering. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Angela?
Thank you, Angela. Just quick one from me. I would like to encourage everybody, especially for those of us those of you who are new on the platform. I know we usually have our first Saturday of every month, right? We usually have like the newcomers onboarding, where we talk on all the things that we do on the platform. And one of the things when it comes to interviews that we always say on the platform is have your stories ready. Never go to an interview. Again, I did an interview this week. Where's my, okay, let me just show you. Just so that you understand, I have this notebook here. And in it, I have list of examples. And I had written like 10. I had 10 different examples in star format. So I had prepared 10 case studies. In case I was asked any question, I had a story to tell. So I had done my scenario planning, I had done my questions. I didn't use all of it. But the aim was that you want to be prepared with a story. You don't want to be pulling stories from the air and trying to back it up with remembrance. So if you have your stories lined up already, when they ask you a question, you say, oh, this story will fit in this question. This story will fit in this question. And that's how you prepare and make sure that you are not, but that's just me. That's the way maybe I over prepare, I don't know, but it's a good thing. And I learned it from this platform, honestly, to have your stories at hand. And then so that when they ask you, you're not thinking, don't forget, they don't know the stories you're about to tell them. So that's just the key to it. I will stop there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I wanted to apologize. I'll let Ines ask her question. She messaged, but I missed the chat. So Ines, before we close off with Sam and Abiodun, you can unmute yourself and ask the question or comment. Ines, yeah, there we go.
Sorry. I was answer the question of the transferable skills. I don't know if it was Angela or China, but I was telling her that she can use ChatGPT to see how to I don't know how to say it's transfer or transfer it, their skills from customer banking to logistic or procurement or
Yeah, supply chain.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good
she
idea.
wants.
That's a very good idea. Thank you, Ines.
I use it, and it helps me a lot for tailoring my resume.
That's good. That's very good.
Awesome. Good,
Awesome.
great contribution.
And
Ines?
yes,
No, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
no, in the beginning of this workshop, you asked me
Jesus,
The line is breaking up. Do you want to maybe
to tell you about how to do it. I don't know if I can do it now or the next time.
oh you mean introducing yourself? Yeah, okay, go for it before we jump to Sam. Okay, we lost you. Maybe type in the chat. I can read it for you. Looks like there's an issue with your connection, Ines. Okay, so Sam, you proceed, and then Abidun, if you okay, you can talk, you close things off.
I think I'm okay. I'm okay. I've asked. I'm fine.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Abidun. Okay,
Well, I think Angela has something to say.
Yes, just a quick one. So I was going to ask, is it okay to gesticulate when you are answering an interview question? Because sometimes I do find myself gesticulating. Like I am so passionate that I tend to do that. So when I'm talking about my experiences and all that, at some point I start gesticulating. So I don't know if it's actually a good thing or a bad thing during an interview.
so I can't say it's right or wrong, but myself, I like to smile a lot. And I thought at some point it might be an issue, but no. When I smile, it's hard to have someone who doesn't smile in front. So as long as you're not like jumping on the table or on the chair, you should be fine. Just be yourself. And at least when they hire you, they know who you are and they won't say, oh no, you faked, and then you were not true. So far I didn't see anything that I will say is a red flag if I was going to hire you. So unless there's something that you kept under the table and I missed, just be
Yeah,
yourself. That's all I will say. I don't know about you, Bio.
yeah,
It's okay.
I was going to ask that. Did you not notice that you saw, unlike Gautier, you saw a lot of my hands?
Yes.
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 So it's unfortunately, but now what you want to do is read the room, which is important. If you are in a now we do a lot of interviews over Zoom. If you are talking and you show your hands, and then every time your hand shows up, you watch the look on the face of the interviewer. If there is a slight frown or there's a slight take back,
Yeah.
then you know that was distracting. So
Okay.
try and gesticulate, but luckily you can change the direction of your camera such that try and gesticulate, but not in. See, my hands are still moving, but you are really not seeing it unless
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
reading the room is now important. Understanding your audience is now important. Knowing what ticks them off,
Body
and it also means
language.
that you need to be conscious of what is going on with the person, and you are not too afraid to read the situation, so it's fine. It's not anything you shouldn't do or not do, but just be aware of your audience, which is key. I think China raised up her hand one time before we end up. I think this should be the final comment.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, thank you, for the privilege to be
All right.
here. I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you for contributing.
So I think Angela and myself will try to link you. We try to find you on LinkedIn. Please accept our link. Well, once we ask for it, once we try to link up with you, please.
No problem, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. I might actually accept before you even send it. So, okay, thank you everyone for
I'm
coming.
Thank
I'm
you.
a follower already. I already follow Bio and Dele.
Same
Oh,
here.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're gonna wrap things up today. It's a beautiful Saturday, almost like 2 degrees here in Calgary, sunny. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you for letting yourself be put on the spot. Sam and Andrew, it's never easy.
That's
I hope
right.
that the audience have learned something, and hopefully we can celebrate your job offer in the next couple of weeks, both of you. Okay,
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank
Bye for
you.
now.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.